Hey, what's up? Ron here. Welcome to TimeWalkTV. I hope you're all having a great day today. If you're new here, we post videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday all about Magic the Gathering. So if you want to keep up with all my videos, go and hit that subscribe button down below. So today we're looking at Throne of Eldraine. Specifically, we're looking for the top 5 cards that I have chosen for the Modern format. Now, this is a really hard choice to make because Modern is such a large format. There's so many good decks. And honestly, Throne of Eldraine has a ton of really great cards. So it's kind of tough to make that decision because there's a lot of cards that could bust into the Modern format. So let's go ahead and jump into my top 5 cards for Modern from Throne of Eldraine. Coming up. All right, welcome in. We're going to be talking about my top 5 cards for Throne of Eldraine. But first, I gotta move over and make room for some of these cards. So, all right, I think we have room now. Before we get started, let's go and talk about a few of the honorable mentions that I really wanted to include in this list, but they just didn't quite make the cut. I don't know if they're going to actually make any impact in Modern. First one is Wishclaw Talisman, 2 mana for an artifact, 1 in a black, that says when it enters the battlefield, put 3 wish counters on it. You may pay 1 and tap, remove a wish counter, search your library for a card, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. An opponent gains control of Wishclaw Talisman. So what this means is you're going to be paying essentially 3 mana to search your deck, put any card you want into your hand. Your opponent will gain control of this, and then when it untaps, they'll be able to do the same thing, and it'll be shipped back to you. So the initial person that plays it gets to do it twice, and your opponent gets to do it once. Now I could see this seeing play because of the fact that you're gaining most of the benefit from it. One is that if you play in a more fair deck like Jund or something like that, you can search out any card you want. Doesn't matter what they search out because you might be able to thought seize them or kill their threat, and then you get it back and get to do it one more time. So getting to be able to do it twice is actually pretty crazy. Now the other type of deck that I've seen this maybe making a splash in is possibly like a combo deck where you can play this on turn 2 and then on turn 3 pay 1 mana, go fetch up the card that you need to combo, and then just go off and then win the game on the spot before they even get to a chance to untap with the Wishclaw Talisman. So that could be definitely something to look into. I don't know what decks can actually do that in Modern, but Legacy and Vintage might have something to say about that. And the second honorable mention is Drown in the Loch. Blue-black for a instant that says choose one, counter target spell with converted mana cost less or equal to the number of cards in the controller's graveyard, and the same thing for creatures, but it destroys the creature. So this card is, well, initially I came out and said this card's a trap, don't play it, it's probably going to like rot in your hand and not do anything. And as I looked into the card more and kind of brewed with it and started figuring things out, it kind of feels like a delve card to me. So with this card, it's going to be tough to play it on turn 2 with any value, but with fetch lands and other things like 1 mana spells from your opponent, you know, they could have 2 to 4 cards in their graveyard before you even get to turn 2. And for the most part in Modern, the average converted mana cost is less than 4. So once they get 4 cards in their graveyard, then this thing counters and kills almost anything. You have to get a little bit more in the graveyard to kill like a prime time or something like that, but the fact that you really don't need to do much to get this to work is incredible. And the fact that I compared it to Delve is that you're playing the game as normal, and then you're just getting a much bigger benefit as the game goes on. Same with Delve. As you put stuff in your graveyard, as you're playing cards, killing their creatures, I don't know, playing spells yourself, playing fetch lands, Delve gets better. So does Drown in the Loch. So as you're killing their creatures, they're fetching out lands, they're playing spells, just makes this card better and better every single turn. Now the decks that I could see it being played in is obviously Mill, because you know on turn 0 they can put 13 cards in your graveyard and then they can counter literally everything. But the other deck I could possibly see it going into is probably like a Grixis control deck, kind of like a Counter Squall replacement for those decks. I'm not sure if they even play Counter Squall anymore, but you probably could replace Logic Knot, to be honest, with this card, because you don't need to delve things out of your graveyard to make your Snapcasters worse. All you have to do is get your opponent to have a bunch of cards in their graveyard to make this thing work. And it works with both killing creatures and countering spells, and it feels really, really good with Snapcaster Mage. Be on the lookout for this card. It may see some play. I'm not sure how adventurous some of these players are to put this in their deck, but definitely expect to see it in mill, but possibly in Grixis control. All right, so the first card we're going to talk about today is Emry, Lurker of the Loch. 2 generic and a blue for a 1/2 legendary creature, Merfolk Wizard. That reads, this spell costs 1 less to cast for each artifact you control. When Emry, Lurker of the Loch enters the battlefield, put the top 4 cards of your library into your graveyard, and then it has the ability to tap. Choose target artifact card in your graveyard. You may cast it this turn. So this is powerful on a ton of different levels. Mainly the cost reduction, because you can play this for 1 blue mana, and then the following turn you can activate to cast any artifact out of your graveyard, which is crazy. So Goblin Engineer has been seeing a lot of play in the Wurza deck, being able to tutor out any artifact that you need into your graveyard, and then sacking one on the battlefield to bring it back. Now with Emery, we're able to bring that card into the graveyard and then cast it because of the tap ability from Emery. So I don't know if you're going to see too many of the Emery card in Wurza, but it definitely will find a place, I think, eventually as a 1 or 2 of, possibly, just to complete that little cycle or that little engine that it has, because any card that makes the Wurza deck more consistent is going to be on the top of people's list to play as soon as the card comes out. So expect to see Emery in that deck. Also, I could possibly see it in like an affinity style deck, or maybe hardened scales, like you can sack your Arcbound Ravager and then tap your Emery to bring it back onto the battlefield and do it all over again, and put a bunch of counters all over the place and just go completely crazy. I don't know if they want to splash blue in there, but it's definitely a possibility. The man is definitely there. Next on our list, number 4, we have Once Upon a Time, 1 in a green, that reads, if this spell is the first spell that you cast in the game, you get to cast it for free. And it reads, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card or a land card from among them, put it into your hand, the rest on the bottom in any order. So the main thing about this is that you have that free spell if you play it as your first spell of the game, and you're able to dig pretty deep. 5 cards is extremely deep for this kind of effect. And then after that, you have an instant speed spell that only costs 2 mana that you can do it over and over again. So the first thing that pops out in my mind is that every green deck in Modern that runs creatures and lands is going to run this card as a 4 of. No question at all. Because you get a free spell if it's the first one you cast, and then it's a super cheap spell that digs you pretty deep to find exactly what you're looking for. So I don't see that there's any downfall to this. Now, the implications of this in like more combo based decks is like the Neoform deck. So what we can do is on, turn 0, you can try to find an Allosaurus Rider, or I don't even know what else is in that deck, but I think they're only looking for Allosaurus Rider so that they can put that in play, then Neoform it into Grizzlebrand, and then kind of go off from there. So having that extra ability to search through your library on top of the London Mulligan rule is going to be pretty interesting to see how it plays out, just to make that deck a little more consistent. The other deck I was looking at is the Vizier of Remedies and the Devoted Druid combo deck. So that's a pretty fair deck, just kind of plays creatures and then combos off with making a bunch of mana. So if you have a spell like this that you can cast for 0 mana on turn 1 or turn 0, then you can find the pieces that you're looking for. So say you have a hand with Once Upon a Time and Vizier Remedies, a bunch of lands or whatever, you can cast Once Upon a Time for free, find the Devoted Druid that you need, and then hopefully combo off as soon as turn 3 possibly, or even turn 3. Yeah, that's gonna be crazy, because this deck, when it gets to go off and it starts to get more consistent with these cards that dig pretty deep, it's gonna make a pretty big statement going into Throne of Eldraine Modern. Next on our list, number 3, we have Deafening Silence. For 1 white mana, we have an enchantment that says each player can cast more than 1 non-creature spell each turn. So what this means is that Storm is going to have another hurdle to jump over to try to win these games, especially against these white decks. And now that Stoneforge Mystic is unbanned, white decks are very prominent right now. These mid-range kind of, grind you out or, play big stuff. Deafening Silence goes right into those decks as a 1 or 2 of in the board, alongside like Rest in Peace and other great sideboard cards. And this just gives them a little more protection and gives it more hoops for Storm to jump through, as well as Arc-like Phoenix decks, if they still exist. Next on our list, number 2, is Witch's Vengeance. 1 black sorcery that reads, creatures of the chosen creature type get -3/-3 till end of turn. So this, in comparison to Plague Engineer that it just came out in Modern Horizons, is pretty similar, because you're choosing a creature type, and that specific creature type gets -X/-X. Or Plague Engineer is a consistent -1/-1 to all those creatures. this is more of a kind of wipe the board, get caught back up type card. Where I see this card really shining is probably against humans, these new goblin decks that are starting to come up, either 8-whack or the red-black version. We also have the Hardened Scales deck that runs all constructs, so this takes out those pretty easily. But Plague Engineer does see quite a bit of play right now, mainly because it's a body with effect that kills like spirits and humans and everything like that. This is more of a Grixis control card, if anything, because you want that early interaction sometimes, but Kolaghan's Command kind of takes the cake on that one. But this card could see a bunch of plays, especially if human starts to get more popular or these goblin decks start to take off as well. And last but certainly not least, we have my number one card in no specific order, Castle Garenbrig. The rare land that says it comes into play tap unless you control a forest, tap for green or pay 4 mana, 2 green, and tap to add 6 green. And you can spend this on creature spells or abilities that creatures have. The main card that stands out in my mind when I see this card is definitely Primeval Titan, because adding 6 green mana that you can spend on creatures alone really just kind of points toward Primeval Titan pretty badly. Now, Valakut decks may play this. I know they play a few forests, but they mainly play mountains. But having this other land type or land name might help for the ones that are playing Field of the Dead in their deck. So that's pretty interesting. Playing a Primeval a turn early is never a bad thing, especially if you have ramp early with Search for Tomorrow into Secure Tribe Elder. You know, you play this on turn 3 and you can probably cast your Primeval Titan. Another deck that I could see this being played in is Amulet Titan, mainly for the fact that when you play it tapped, you can untap it and then immediately tap it for mana. Or if you already have a forest, sure, it comes in untapped. But when you start getting into the realm of having 2 amulets out, then when you play it tapped, it's untapping twice, so you can make 12 mana for 8 mana. So it'll just be super interesting to see what happens when Throne of Eldraine drops on Magic Online and in paper, especially with some of these modern events coming up pretty soon, like the one I'm going to in SCG Philly. So that should be pretty cool to see what we play against. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I want to hear down below in the comments what your top 5 cards are from Eldraine that are going into Modern. Maybe you have some honorable mentions that may not make the cut, but you want to see played anyway. Go ahead and like the video if you liked it. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. We post videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, all about Magic the Gathering. So go and keep up with these videos. We're going to keep making them, have fun, talking about Magic. It's going to be great. And again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. And remember, Magic is great, and so are you. Stay positive and play Islands.